Hey guys, Dave here with Christopher Harris. Hey Chris, how's it going?
It's going. I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I shaved my head for this. I was listening to today's pod and heard that hippie Denny on there and went, I better get this cleaned up.
Well, I'm not seeing you at this exact moment, but I'm assuming that I'm blinded by the glare.
There you go. So we're talking today about some early round draft
Right.
strategy. In your drafts, and I know you've done a ton, is there a spot where you prefer to draft this year? Early, late, middle?
I think it's almost always early, but it does feel like this year it's if I had my choice, it would be one, two, three. If I have found picking three is just lovely because I take Zeke Elliott and then any draft board is entirely the idea of this show of us doing this show is just us to talk about our experiences in the early rounds. And I'll just say my experience in the early rounds, having picked everywhere now, has been I'm always trying to get maybe two of the players that I really like and trust. And frankly, the only time that's really going to happen is maybe you're picking back towards the very, very end of the first round. And that's cool. It's like you're getting the last couple guys that you trust. Even then, sometimes you don't. First of all, depends on how many you trust. Also, though, you have to admit that when you're picking towards the back end, you just don't have that anchor, that superstar. And if I get Zeke, maybe the feeling winds up being worth less than what it actually is in real life, but it does feel like the guy I would have gotten in the middle of the second round wouldn't have made me any happier than the guy I get at the end of the second round. So I'll just take Zeke.
All right. I think I'm on the other side of that. I liked being a little later in the mock drafts I've done. If I look at my first two rounds as a pair, I just have felt better, like you said, I've got a little more confidence there.
I
But
get it. And probably to some extent, it depends on your league mates. And we'll talk some about that, about what happens when certain positions are or aren't going off the board. If I'll just give an example. Okay. So I just, as of we're recording this on a Tuesday, and on Monday night, I did like the big CBS charity auction with a bunch of experts, and I picked seven. And as we're talking, we've got all this question about Alvin Kamara potentially leaving camp because he's mad with his contract. And Joe Mixon, are the migraines real or is he mad about his contract? Dalvin Cook, he says he's not holding out, but we don't know. At some point, immediately he, like Kamara, just disappears. So I had this question at seven, like, will those guys fall to me? If they will, I'm psyched. I'm excited. Great. Woohoo. I'd love it. And unfortunately, 5 and 6 was Kamara and Cook. So at seven, I had some running backs I trusted, but I like Michael Thomas at seven. Now, the reason I bring this up is because the first 6 picks in that draft were running backs, Dave, and the next 8 picks were also running backs. So I picked Michael Thomas. There were 6 running backs before me. There were 8 running backs after me in this wise guy draft. Well, in that case, you're in a completely different kind of situation, a different kind of draft board, right? Where I wound up going receiver in the second round and receiver in the third round. This is the Denny Carter dream. This is the zero RB that I never do. But I think this is okay. I'm kind of veering us off target a little bit, but I hope people find it interesting. This is why I think we don't go in with preconceived notions about position. If one person in front of me in my draft that night had decided that he was freaked out by Kamara and he wanted Michael Thomas instead, I would have taken Kamara. I would have been fine with it, and I would have proceeded like the rest of the cattle, and I would have had probably 1 or 2 running backs in the first couple of rounds. But because I'm looking at my board, I'm therefore deciding, no, I like Thomas more, and that's going to set me down a path, but I think I can win that way.
yeah, and what you're talking about there makes me think of something you often say of like the ranks already have like
Right.
tiers kind of built into there. Even if you're not drawing tiers with lines, there's a reason that
Sure.
it's the top 6 running backs and then whatever 3 to 5 wide receivers, depending on how you feel. And then there's the next, like generally depending on whose ranks, personal ranks or your ranks, whatever we're looking at. That's kind of what we see there.
Yeah.
I personally feel,
Absolutely.
go.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I feel a little better like that 3 wide receiver you just describing it, Denny Carter's dream, if we will, scares me. Like just hearing it, but I'm not seeing your whole team. Um,
Okay, well, I could talk about what I did. I'll just talk about what I did, but I'll also say you're 100% right. Like the whole point of assembling yours or the viewers or anybody's own draft board is that you are baking a positional strategy in. It's all well and good me to say, oh, positionless football, like take whoever's best. Like partly you're baking into your draft board, where's the point where the running backs don't make you feel good anymore? Here's the point where the wide receivers feel better. It feels better to me to take, as much as you've seen me espouse the virtues of Joe Mixon and Josh Jacobs. Like, makes me feel better to take Michael Thomas. It does, especially this is a PPR league, so it especially does.
Yeah.
But maybe someone else doesn't feel that way. You assemble your board, but clearly running back scarcity is built into your board. And I'll just say the way my team turned out. Okay, it went Michael Thomas in the first. It went Tyreek Hill in the second. So like pretty, right direct. I was picking seventh, so directly right in the middle. Odell Beckham in the third, and then I got Jonathan Stewart, Mark Ingram, J.K. Dobbins, and Marlon Mack the next 4 rounds, essentially trying to kind of accidentally, but they were about right where I was having them in my ranks, cornering the market. Let's just make sure we get the Ravens running backs. Let's make sure we get the Colts running backs. Given that I have 3 potential top 15 and maybe top 8 wide receivers, as long as I figure something out among those Colts and Ravens, it feels workable to me.
That's interesting because the cornering the market on certain teams is not necessarily the Harris strategy. When I look at the ranks, I hope people in the comments or email them at Hey Harris, give Chris a little hell for veering from the ranks.
Listen, the whole point is I try not to go in with a preconceived idea. If the entire draft is zigging towards running backs, and let's face it, I'm always the running back early guy. I have been forever. The market this year has come around and totally embraced that notion. And if it embraces to that extent where, what did I say, 14 of the first 15 or whatever players are running backs, I think we're now taking advantage of the fact that wide receiver was such a disastrous position last year, and we're actually getting unbelievable value. Dave, I'm going to ask you, you have a choice in the second round. No matter what you've done in the first round, you've got a choice between, I don't know what your board is, right? On my board, players like Kenyon Drake, I don't know, some people have James Conner higher. These running backs that, okay, I mean, do I really want to make them a second round pick, or have wide receivers lasted so long that I could get DeAndre Hopkins? What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'm going to take the wide receiver there. That was actually earlier when we talked about picking early or picking late. Part of what scares me a little more about picking early is looking at that class of getting nervous about Drake and stuff. And I was higher on Drake in the summer in the abstract. I was going I liked the end of the season. And then I just started to, once ADP came in, I went, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little high. I mean, Miles Sanders, who I'm not the highest on, has seen his ADP fall into the second. Everybody watching is going to have these guys in a different order. And someone watching in Pittsburgh might be like, I love James Conner. I'm all about James Conner in the second. Great. He's in your circle of trust. The question is, once you get outside your circle of trust with running backs, there's a really great chance, especially if it's kind of a wise guy league and no quarterbacks are going early and no tight ends are going early, where you're going to have to potentially make a choice, whether you're going to zig because everybody else is deciding to zag. And obviously in that CBS draft, that's what I did.
And we're talking about early round draft strategy, but a time you don't have to think about your draft because you get to change it every week is when you're playing on DraftKings. We will all season. I sneak it up on you, Chris.
That was a segue. I was like, where's he going with this? Oh, it's the DraftKings ad. Yeah, so excited to have DraftKings as a sponsor. A lot of people who watch this channel and listen to the podcast already are DraftKings players. DraftKings.com, promo code HarrisTube is where we would like you to go. They've put together a contest just for my listeners and now for my viewers. And that contest, it's a blast. Everybody puts in $5. DraftKings doesn't take any money. They make zero money from this. It all goes back to the winners. And then, whatever, the top third or whatever, we'll cash and win something. And then in addition, a 4-week window, we'll figure out who over the 4 weeks scored the most points on DraftKings. That person will win a one-on-one Skype session with me. And I've done them every month for 5 years now. It's really super cool. I really love doing them. The only way to play is DraftKings.com. Use the promo code HarrisTube. And then for week 1, they will make us a link that I will promote on social media and here and on the podcast. So if you don't yet have a DraftKings account, do it and use the promo code HarrisTube.
Thanks to DraftKings for sponsoring the show.
Indeed.
All right. So before we took our break, we were talking about a specific draft where we went wide receiver heavy and all of the running backs are going in the early 2 rounds. And I feel like there's a chicken and the egg here of not only is it very running back heavy for 2 rounds, we get 3, 4, 5, and it's just wide receivers galore. Whether that's players that you and I both like, there's Sutton, Terry McLaurin falling in that range, or if it's just kind of a dearth of that's where the running backs get real scary. Do you think it's a must? Do you think it's a must that we like pivot completely there, or is that again zig when zag?
I don't think there is a must. I would say, first of all, like it probably depends on how your draft is going. The draft that we talked about earlier in this show, I reacted that way because the zig was, or the zag, or whichever you want to call it, was such a veer. So I never expect, I've done 36 drafts probably in August, right? And I never experienced one where literally no other wide receivers went in the first 15 picks other than the one I took. And in that case, yeah, there are going to wind up being really good receivers that get taken in the third and fourth and fifth round. And I think where some of this advice that you're hearing some places about, oh, wait on receiver, definitely get running backs, running back. It's going to stink once you get down to 3, 4, 5, and you have to take a running back. Some of where that's coming from is this buyer's remorse, this envy, this like, oh man, I took Tyreek Hill in the second and I could have gotten Adam Thielen in the fourth. Oh, that was bad value by me. I don't know, because then I have to compare the running back that I would have taken to the running back that I would have taken. Like, I could have gotten, I don't know, we like Le'Veon Bell, but he's not going in the second round. I might have taken him roughly in the second round, or Kenyon Drake, or Melvin Gordon, or whatever. Like, I could take them in the second round right before running back gets quote unquote really stinky, if lots and lots of running backs have already gone. Is Melvin Gordon, are those other guys, James Conner, are they much better than, I don't know, I took Jonathan Taylor in the fourth. Isn't there a world where Jonathan Taylor winds up better than those guys? There are high upside guys you could potentially get in the fourth. And I don't want you to mistake this, Dave. This is not me advocating zero RB. I'm the last guy who's going to advocate zero RB. I just think in a year when now suddenly the world has completely aligned with my view and everybody's drafting like I've always drafted, it's okay to have your antenna up to go, well, I don't know. Do I have to go running back in the second round? Do I have to even go running back in the first round? If everybody's going to behave the same way, and Lamar Jackson's not going to go, and Pat Mahomes is not going to go, and Travis Kelce's not going to go, and I'm really down to not great running backs already in the second round, and I can get Tyreek Hill, I don't know. I think I'm to the point where I'm willing to go the other direction.
Well, that gives me two thoughts. One,
okay,
I get to make the title, so I am going to pitch this as Chris converted to zero RB. Come in, watch this.
Denny will just be smiling. So I was literally texting Denny during that draft. You're not going to believe what I'm doing right now.
So, but the other thing you mentioned there was if Pat Mahomes isn't going, Lamar Jackson, and that's going to be probably a pretty rare case. Like those QBs are going high, not all RBs.
Agreed. So maybe I'm fixating a little too much on one draft that I did in which wise guys weren't doing the thing that we expect to be done in home leagues. And therefore your question still becomes relevant. Like, yes, if you look at my overall ranks, positional strategy wise, I have running backs higher than receivers. You know, you take away those first 5 receivers who I consider to be inside the circle of trust, they're surrounded by something like a lot of running backs at 13, 14. Like, if other drafters in a draft are doing me the favor of taking players I don't want, and it's not like I don't like Patrick Mahomes, I just don't, in a one quarterback league, I'm never going to take him in the first round or in the second round. If you're taking their tight ends off the board, you're doing me a favor. Like, if drafts are going to go as you're describing them, of course, what I'm talking about in terms of, Chris is now converted to zero RB doesn't apply anymore. My ranks have positional strategy built in, and likely Aaron Jones is going to be my pick. I love getting him in the second round. Great. You know, maybe not pick 13, but if Aaron Jones had been there, Aaron Jones had been gone like 5 picks before that CBS draft because Mahomes and Jackson and Kelce and all those guys hadn't gone. But if I get Aaron Jones, I wind up with him in the second round quite a bit, actually. I've gotten Jones paired with Zeke at 3 before, as other people have done other positional stuff and taken receivers and taken tight ends and taken quarterbacks. Yes, your point is well taken. The kind of consensus this year of, if you can go running back, and they don't make you sick, you will get good receivers 3, 4, 5. They might not be as good as DeAndre Hopkins or Tyreek Hill. You know, there's a great chance they won't be, but we like the upside of the Suttons and the McLaurins and the DJ Moores and all those guys.
Yeah, and I think part of why that's happening is it depends on the platform you're playing on, right? Everyone sees that ADP. Not as many people are in person, right? So you're looking at the draft applet and seeing, oh, these are who it says should go next. And those also have those guys right up there.
Absolutely. It's a great point. And I get the question I talked about on the podcast. I get the question like, given that I'm playing on platform X, I'm playing on Yahoo, I'm playing on ESPN, I'm playing on CBS, whatever, and there's default ranks built in, and I'm paying a little more attention than my league mates, and they're more likely to give weight to the default ranks. And my, meaning the drafters, personal ranks don't necessarily conform with those. Like, how can I take advantage? And the answer that I came to on the podcast is sort of still my answer, which is you can play a game of chicken. You can try to get away with it. I would take Cortland Sutton here, but I don't have to, because I see in the default ranks that he's going to go 20 rounds later if people adhere to these default ranks. So I'm going to wait around. But it is a game of chicken, and let's face it, all it takes is one person. I'm very willing to do it. I do it all the time. I mean, I draft on CBS with all the CBS guys, and I know they're the ones who made the ranks, and I know that they are going to conform closer to the default ranks than I do. And I'll see, like, in my own estimation, Le'Veon Bell would be good here, and I'm going to see if I can get away with it. Wait one more round. And, like, for example, the Monday night draft I did, I waited one more round. I didn't get him. But it's a game, I think a lot of the times if you win that game of chicken, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, I just lost a game of chicken over the weekend in a draft. And, I was looking at the ranks and was waiting on quarterback and tight end because that's where the value is, right? And I sent a text to a different buddy in the same draft who already had his quarterback and said...
Collusion.
I said, I'm in a silent game of chicken right now over Aaron Rodgers. The problem is the other team that doesn't have him is named team name AR12. So I have a feeling I know Rodgers. And as I'm sending the text, I just had sent that gif of going, and he's gone.
Because... Yeah. And by the way, Dave, in that charity league for St. Jude's Hospital, who's my quarterback?
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I also got Carson Wentz. Yeah. That's that's a topic for another show. That's a show we're going to do here in a minute. We're going to do a second show about the draft that'll come out probably the next day after this one, about how maybe we're changing a little bit in our draft strategies in the year of COVID.
And if that show's already come out, you will see a link right here above my finger. I'll put it right there.
I'm so savvy.
Otherwise, thanks, Chris. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, leave a comment about how Chris has gone 0 RB crazy.
Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button. Write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.